This trumpet shell actually figures quite prominently in the coral reefs around Micronesia. It's one of the few predators of the crown of thorns starfish. Micronesia is probably the finest place in the world for diving. There are many extraordinary creatures that live in these marine sanctuaries. Allow me to show you some of the more interesting ones. The deadly cone shell. This cone shell is responsible for killing over 100 people a year in the South Pacific and the South China Sea. Tourists pick them up in shallow water, put them in their pocket thinking they've got a lovely find. Fact of the matter is there's a deadly poison dart that comes eking out of the back and it poisons you, and at least 100 people lose their lives. Within 15 minutes, you can't even call for help, and you're a shot duck. This is the deadly cone shell. The fabled coconut crab, Burgess latrobe. This crab climbs up the coconut trees, snips the coconuts, comes down at night, rips the husk off with its powerful claws, cracks open the nut meat, and gobbles up the coconut. They are endangered now. It's a crab that tastes like coconut. Go figure. This was about a 9-pound specimen, but they get up to 16 pounds, the size of footballs. They are endangered now and are found only in the remote coral atolls where there's no people, because when there's people, they all get eaten. This river is one of the world's greatest fishing rivers. 500-pound piraiba catfish, huge black piranha, giant pintado, painted catfish, freshwater stingrays, hordes by the thousands of red piranha, caiman lining the banks with their red eyes beating out at night that you find with flashlights. This is truly a paradise in Brazil. Not to mention, the Amazon, it's quite difficult to find creatures. Whereas here, it's like the world's largest zoo. It's like somebody let all the animals out of the cage. Huge populations, we call them ninhals, where the storks breed. Giant tuiuiu, the world's largest stork. Hyacinth macaws, toucans rocketing overhead. This is a serious naturalist's paradise. I've been able to capture and preserve a few specimens that are famous from the Rio Cuiabá. This jaguar is at the top of the food chain. I see one every 15 years because they need enormous territories. Surrounding me are the finest awarded lady slipper orchids in the world. These plants have been growing under cultivation for almost 20 years. They've been on the CITES ban for endangered species, and it is now against the law to bring them in from any country, especially Southeast Asia, where the majority of them originate. In a minute, I'm going to give you a blow-by-blow description of each different species, how they get pollinated, and what makes them so unique. But you have to look around and marvel at some of the exquisite creatures that we share this planet with. Look at them. They're awesome. After 20 years of growing under cultivation, they flowered this year the most spectacular inflorescences they have ever produced. This is Phragmipedium grande. Look at the amazing sepals that come dangling down, almost 18 inches long. The flowers take 3 or 4 days to open from the time that they crack. What's amazing about these is that the insects, first of all, the dorsal sepal, this twisted, gnarly thing, is basically a rain shield. It keeps the water from filling up the pouch. Now when the bug flies in, it generally gets knocked to the bottom. But there's a little hair-like ladder so that the insect can crawl out of the tube, and it either goes to the left or to the right. In doing so, the pollen gets glued onto the back of the insect so that the next flower it visits, it will brush up against the stigmatic surface and cause pollination. This is Phragmipedium grande, which is actually made by crossing 2 primary species together. It's an awarded plant and won Best of Show in the '85 Orchid Show. Phragmipedium grande is now critically endangered, as are all paths that are coming out of Ecuador. One of the most amazing things, if I can put this foliage aside, look at the bud just getting ready to open. Looks like a praying mantis. These are rarely filmed. It takes 3 days for the dorsal sepal to fully extend and for the lateral sepals to grow and grow and grow. Everything in nature has a purpose. Everything is used to attract a pollinator, in the case with flowers. At about 1,000 meters in the cool montane forests of Borneo, on the slopes of Kota Kinabalu, one of Asia's most famous mountain ranges for orchids. Obviously, each shape is slightly different to attract a different pollinator, because these flowers and their pollinators have co-evolved together. Paphiopedilum Rothschild, the rarest orchid in the world, and it's right over there. You know what a privilege it is to have something like this in a private collection? It's absolutely awesome. Paphiopedilum Rothschildianum is the most sought-after orchid in the world. Armed guards and border patrols guard the 3 or 4 locations where it's still found. Forest fires years ago wiped out 60% of the endemic population in Borneo. People have gone to prison for this, for smuggling lady slipper orchids, especially this one. They sell for thousands of dollars a fan and are now banned on the CITES list. Rothschildianum grows on limestone cliffs in Borneo at about 1,000 meters into the pre-montane forest. Imagine for a minute I was a proboscis monkey and I was very, very thirsty. What would I do? Well, if I was in Borneo, particularly in Sabah, where the greatest proliferation of these pitcher plants live, I would simply locate the source and that was disgusting. Oh. But nonetheless, quenches your thirst, especially if there's no water to be found and it's in the middle of dry season. It's actually a modified leaf appendage. Water goes in here from the torrential rains they receive almost daily. And then insects, when they go to feed, it's quite slippery here. They lose their balance and they knock down into the pitcher. As they rot, there's a gastric juice, an organic debris that forms and filters the matter back up. And that's how the plant feeds itself. What a marvelous evolutionary strategy on how to feed yourself. These pitcher plants, of which there are about 20 species, some of which get so large they're the size of a vase, and they found birds, rats, and snakes inside them. One of the more clever evolutionary techniques that I've seen on how a plant can feed itself. They call these dragones in Spanish. They put out a musky scent, and they lure bees and wasps. And if you actually take a close-up look at the flower, it does look like a flying insect. Once again, it's nature's way of mimicking the very creature that pollinates it. These gongora form long pendant chains, 15 and 20 chains at a time, and are native to Central and South America. This particular specimen, gongora, it was collected in Costa Rica. Brassia, the spider orchid. They actually put out a similar musky scent that mimics the pheromones of wasps. The wasp comes in and actually tries to mate with it and attempts time and time again, boom, like it's stinging and mating, accidentally picks up the pollen off of one of the caps and deposits it in the next flower. So between scent and shape, this flower lures the wasp and tricks it into pollinating it. It's a clever evolutionary strategy, which has worked quite well. They make 4, 5, 6 spikes, especially on old plants that have been grown for 20 years in a teakwood crate, like this one. Brassias are native to Central and South America, with this particular species coming from Brazil. 2,000 flowers we call lluvia de oro, shower of gold. This is Oncidium spacillatum. It's actually called the dancing lady orchid. They produce pendants up to 7 feet long, sometimes bearing as many as 10,000 flowers. And if you get a close-up of one of the flowers, you can see that there's actually a skirt, a head, and a headdress. They're like little mini Carmen Mirandas just flying around. This is a plant that rules here at Nature House. 27 years of uninterrupted growth has produced this magnificent Platycerium superbum, one of the largest ferns in the world, originally from New Guinea. What is so cool about this plant is they only make 4 leaves a year. 2 leaves are these. They're to gather sunlight for photosynthesis and eventually to produce these spore patches for reproduction. On the other hand, further up are 2 giant leaf shields. Those fan-out leaf shields collect the hornbill dung, monkey dung, leaf litter, all types of floating debris which then rots, feeding the plant internally. Platycerium superbum is considered to be the most sought-after fern in the world.
In front of me here is Ecmia stellata. There's a species that comes out of Brazil. It's time to meet Big Daddy.
It's good stuff.